The top 10 qualities women say they look for in a man. 1. Confidence. 2. Sense of humor. 3. Reliability and honesty. 4. Not a pushover. 5. Intelligence. 6. Resourcefulness. 7. Passion. 8. Ability to communicate. 9. A protector. 10. Physicality, or attractiveness, and sex appeal. So let's break these down. Confidence. It just keeps coming back to this, doesn't it? Women love confidence. It's sexy and pulls them in. Remember, there is a difference between confidence and cockiness. Confidence is often unspoken, more of a vibe than the actual words. It's the way you stand and the way you speak, and women can't get enough of it. Sense of humor. Having a sense of humor isn't just about telling a joke, but also about not taking yourself too seriously. If you tease her, she's probably going to tease you back. In fact, you should hope she does, because that's a sign she's flirting back and interested. So don't get easily offended. It's one thing to let a joke slide off you, but if you actually got insulted by a legitimate insult, make sure you don't get angry and just let it go. Although it might be time to walk away. Remember your self-worth. You should never stand somewhere and allow someone to insult you. Many times, the woman won't even realize that she said something that offended you. Just like men, women will sometimes jest without meaning any harm. When you point it out to them, they'll apologize and back off. Often, this shows that you're willing to stand up for yourself without having to fly off the rails, and she'll give you more respect. But if the woman tries to brush off your concerns or acts indignant for being called out on it, then you need to walk away. Reliability and honesty. Women don't like liars. It doesn't matter if you lied to them about cheating, what you do for a living, or that you're wearing clean socks. They want to know that you are telling them the truth. They also want to feel that you're reliable. From the first time they meet you through dating and even into marriage, they want to know that you'll be there for them and do what they ask and that you promise. A classic example of this is the honey-do list. When you are in a relationship, there will be things that she asks you to do, from errands to household things, and a lot of times couples call it the honey-do or honey-do list. Some boyfriends and husbands don't take this list seriously, but it's a way to show that you are dependable. Make sure that you're constantly checking things off and getting them done. Believe me, she notices. Not a pushover. You don't have to be over-demanding by any means, but you need to stand up for yourself. Don't let people, or her, walk all over you. While you want to do things for her, you aren't at her beck and call. You have a life and goals of your own. Intelligence. Once, a woman was telling me about a guy she dated who was extremely handsome, but not too smart. She told me a story about how once they were watching television and bookends were mentioned in a joke. Her boyfriend just looked at her, not understanding. She proceeded for 10 minutes to try to explain to him what bookends were. He still had no idea. She finally got up, went to a shelf, and grabbed a pair and showed them to him. He laughed and said he didn't know they had names. To make it worse, one day he was looking at the spices in her cabinet and started asking what things were while he mispronounced them. The woman told me that at that point, she knew the relationship was doomed. She would even tell the guy, "It's a good thing you're handsome." And he still didn't understand she was insulting him. Women want you to have a brain in your head. You don't need to be a rocket scientist, but you need to know how the world works and how you fit in. And always learn how to pronounce the name of spices. Resourcefulness. Women love a guy who can figure stuff out without sweating. It can be something as small as changing out a broken light bulb with a potato. Well, look it up. or finding a way to get tickets to a sold-out concert. Women love that you can figure it out, especially when you have the ability to figure it out for them. It makes them feel special. Passion. Women want a man who is passionate about things, and they know when you are serious. It needs to be passionate about important things. First of all, they want you to be passionate about them, but they want to see it in the way you talk about work, family, and even hobbies. Be forewarned, though, if your hobby is volunteering, she's going to be more impressed than the passion you express when, say, you gush over your baseball hat collection. Ability to communicate. Women want a man who knows what he wants and can put it into concise words. It doesn't matter if you're ordering a sandwich or talking to her about a relationship. Women are constantly complaining that men don't open up to them. This is a bit misleading to men. They think that women want them to open up the floodgates and let the emotions and feelings out. Now, you don't need to bottle up everything, but they aren't looking for an hour-long session of telling you your innermost thoughts and feelings. She really just wants you to be honest and tell her things. As men, all too often we're taught to bottle things up and carry on. Many men are told to hide their emotions and to bottle them up. They think that they shouldn't show off their emotions. But how can that help when you're trying to relate to another person? Be honest. If there's something bothering you, tell her. If there's something in the relationship you aren't getting, even sexually, tell her. How is she going to know if you don't tell her? A protector. Women want to feel safe. You don't even have to do anything but let them know you are there for them. It's going to be different with different women, too. I need to mention here that I am pretty tall. Once upon a time, I dated a woman named Lauren, who was a former model and about 5'10". I also dated another woman named Kate, who was about 5'5". They each wanted to feel protected, but in different ways. Kate loved the feeling that I was so much bigger. She could get lost in my arms when I wrapped them around her. She'd tell me how secure it made her feel, and that when she was with me, she felt safe. Lauren, on the other hand, didn't need to feel physically protected in the same way, because she was so much taller. Heck, she was taller than a lot of guys out there. But she told me she felt safe as well, for different reasons. She said she felt as though I had her back, that she could take care of herself, but just in case she didn't, she had me as a backup. She called us partners in crime. Protection isn't always about being big and being able to physically sweep her away from danger. Sometimes it's more emotional and psychological. Physicality or attractiveness and sex appeal. Of course, she needs to be attracted to you physically. But did you know it can be a lot more than how you look that attracts her to you? It's actually a combination of all the above things. True, some people just aren't going to be attractive to others, especially if you don't take care of yourself externally. But it's so much more. By being her protector and making her feel safe and cared for, you are triggering primal urges in her brain. Going all the way back to the days of the caveman, women are biologically wired to find the best mate. While part of that is physical attractiveness, their brains are wired to look for the man who can provide her with the best offspring, who can protect her against danger and other men, who will be trustworthy and always come home to take care of her. So, when you show her that you offer these other things, it builds her attraction to you on a primal level. Find out what interests her. So, how do you show her how you fit into her categories? Well, it's not just as simple as rattling down the list and telling her which things on her checklist you qualify for. She wants to know exactly how, and she wants to discover it. So, you need to do some work. You need to organically see how you fit in, and then show her where you match and have connections. She needs to find out that you are the right guy, but you definitely need to help it along. Ask her questions. During a conversation, Women love it when you ask them questions. The problem is that a lot of guys don't know how to ask questions. Make sure you ask real questions that will reveal something interesting about her and follow up. Turning around from a dead end. If you ask her something and the answer is a dead end, sometimes you can turn it naturally. You may have just gotten back from a great vacation and have a good story to tell, but you ask her if she likes to travel and she says, "Not really." You probably don't want to tell that story. So, what do? Turn it. So, you must do a lot locally. Any cool places I should know about? See, it's turning a negative into a positive and pushing the conversation forward. Don't go on and on and on and on. If you're telling a story, don't go on for everything. Don't dominate the conversation. Conversations are about give and take and back and forth. If you're doing all the talking, she's going to get turned off. Don't be cruel. Women like a little teasing, but everyone has their limits. Always be aware as you are finding that limit and don't fall into cruel or mean jokes. They want you to listen. That woman you're talking with wants to feel like there's no one else in the room. Put that phone down. Don't glance around and give her your full attention. It seems pretty simple, but all too often, we don't give people the attention they deserve. Our minds might wander, and what we don't realize is that our facial expressions change when we're not actively engaged in listening. People can tell, and you don't want a woman that you were talking to realize she's basically talking to herself. Mansplaining. This is a new term that is in society, but it's not a new act by any means. Mansplaining is when a guy over-explains or simplifies something to a woman in a way that comes across as condescending or often incorrect. One of the things I've learned over my experiences with women is to respect them. Don't try to assume they aren't as smart as you. Hey, I'm not saying there aren't some women who lack intelligence out there, but there are some pretty stupid dudes roaming the earth as well. Men need to realize women will ask for help or an explanation if they need one. Many women today have advanced degrees and careers, and they're just fine figuring things out on their own. Unfortunately, it's still fairly common for men to feel the need to correct women, especially in STEM-related topics, even when they know that the woman has the same amount or more knowledge of a certain subject than they do. I've even seen men start out condescending while explaining something to a woman, only to find out it's that woman's area of expertise. And then they double down and refuse to admit they were out of line or wrong. Maybe it has something to do with feeling superior, but mansplaining isn't necessary. I remember talking to one of my friends who spent a number of years working in a research and development capacity for a big company. She recounted so many stories of men who felt it was their job to explain every little detail of a specific situation to her, whether it had to do with the job or the latest football game. While some women may need these things explained, it's never a good idea to assume. In fact, with this particular friend, she had a higher degree and understanding of the topic than the men who were trying to over-explain things to her, and she was able to point out several instances where the information they provided was wrong. Plus, as an avid football fan, she was able to hold her own there. If the woman needs something explained, she will ask. Never assume that just because she is a woman, she won't understand what's going on. So, especially in conversations, she doesn't want to hear you try to explain the workings of some machine. Even if she asks you a question about something you know a lot about, don't bore her or insult her by giving a lecture. Make sure that you don't talk down to the woman either. It's fine to be passionate about something, but if you're lecturing the woman or she seems bored, it's time to move on to a new topic. Some men even try to mansplain a woman's own feelings to her. If that sounds absurd, it's because it is, but it also happens. Another female friend of mine told me a story about this happening to her while she was in college. She started going on dates with a young man from one of her classes, and a mutual male acquaintance of theirs started talking to her one day about how it was going. She wasn't sure she felt any chemistry with the guy, and explained to the acquaintance that, for personal reasons, she didn't feel like he was the right person for her. The acquaintance then proceeded to tell her that she didn't think she deserved love and went into a whole amateur psych evaluation for her. Needless to say, this made her uncomfortable, and she both stopped talking to the acquaintance and broke things off with the young man. Long story short, don't be a jerk. Don't try to explain something to a woman who clearly has more knowledge of it than you do, especially when that something involves her own emotions. Just as importantly, make sure that your male friends don't mansplain things to women, especially one you want to talk to. It might bite you in the butt instead. This has been How to Talk to Women. Get her to like you and want you with effortless, fun conversation and never run out of anything to say. How to Approach Women. Dating Advice for Men. Written by Ray Asher. Narrated by Russell Newton. Copyright 2020 by Ray Asher. Production copyright by Ray Asher.